Can you actually live in China without speaking Chinese? Well, I've been living here for more than 20 years and my Chinese level is like this. I can go shopping, no problem. I can travel around, book a hotel, rent an apartment, and I can hold a simple conversation in a queue or in a bar. I can talk about my job and I can answer most of the questions people ask me when they see me for the first time. Because let's be honest, those questions are always the same. But if the conversation goes deeper, I get lost pretty quickly. The real question is, how much Chinese do you actually need to live in China? Well, the more you know, the better, obviously. But the truth is, you can get away with zero Chinese. First of all, because of modern technology. AI translation tools today are insanely good. You can just speak into your phone and it instantly translates everything for you. Second, China is actually very foreigner-friendly when it comes to navigation. Most signs are in two languages, Chinese and English. Street names are written in pinyin, Latin letters, and subways, airports, and stations are clearly labeled. It's actually very hard to get lost in a Chinese airport or on the subway. And there's another thing. In bigger cities, especially among younger people, many Chinese people speak at least basic English. If you speak clearly and simply, you can usually get the information you need. So yes, you can survive quite comfortably. But if we go a bit deeper into daily life, of course it's better if you know some Chinese. For example, bargaining. If you want a better price, Chinese definitely helps. But even here you can get by with very little. Numbers, for example, are super easy to learn. My wife almost never speaks Chinese, at least in front of me. She's a bit shy, but she knows numbers really well. So when we hear a price somewhere, she understands it instantly. Now let's talk about situations where you actually need Chinese. For me, number one is anything official. Government offices, police, hospitals, social services. That's where things get more complicated because the person you're talking to might not speak English very well or at all. The same goes for banks sometimes, and train stations can also be tricky, unlike airports where English is usually fine. So what's the solution? Usually it's having a Chinese friend, a colleague, or someone local who can help you translate and navigate these situations. Second, you can use your phone. Third, and probably the one where you need to put in the most effort, is actually learning some basic Chinese. You can do it with a friend, you can do it with a girlfriend/boyfriend you meet here. You can watch Chinese TV shows or movies, listen to Chinese songs, and just surround yourself with the language. This way you'll learn really fast, but only if you actually put your time and attention into it. So how difficult is Chinese? On a scale from 1 to 10, I would say 10. Speaking is not that hard, but writing and reading are extremely difficult. However, again, if you put your mind into it, it becomes easier over time because your brain and your eyes start getting used to the characters you see around you. You begin to recognize them almost automatically, even without actively studying. A simple example is when you get a train ticket, very quickly you learn where it says carriage number and seat number, or words like station, which you see all the time in the subway, or avenue or street. You keep hearing them all the time, Zhan, Dadao, Lu, and they just stick. One thing I've noticed about people learning Chinese is that pronunciation can be very different depending on where you're from. For example, many Americans and British people struggle with pronunciation. Not everyone, of course, but I have British friends whose Chinese accent is so strong that sometimes locals don't really understand what they say. At the same time, I've met foreigners who speak so fluently that if I close my eyes, I would never guess they're not Chinese. Another funny thing about foreigners speaking Chinese, I've seen this so many times and it still makes me laugh. Very often, Chinese people simply don't expect you to speak Chinese. So their brain doesn't even register that the words coming out of your mouth are actually in their own language. So sometimes you say something in perfect Chinese and they simply say, "Sorry, I don't speak your language." Then you get their attention, look at them and say, "Hey, I'm speaking Chinese. And suddenly their brain switches and they understand everything. Now, what about written Chinese? Where do you actually need it? For example, at a bus stop. Usually there's no pinning, only Chinese characters. So you need to recognize where you're going. Or text messages at work or in group chats with Chinese friends. When people start typing in Chinese, it's definitely useful to understand what they're saying. But again, nowadays apps like WeChat, it's a Chinese chatting app, make things much easier. You can just press and hold the message and translate it instantly. So even that is not a big problem. Although sometimes the translation is not perfect. So do you need Chinese to live in China? Yes and no, or no and yes. I'm not even sure which one goes first. I think if you are a bit lazy and you don't really need it, it's okay not to learn it. Very basic Chinese will stick to you naturally, just because you are surrounded by the language. But if you do want to learn Chinese, China probably is the best place to do it. So whether you come here with zero Chinese or with some basic knowledge, you'll be fine either way. And actually, there are situations where not speaking Chinese can even be an advantage. The best example is a classroom. If you speak Chinese, you might be tempted to translate everything for your students. But if you don't, you're forced to be creative. You start drawing, acting things out, using gestures. That's exactly what my teachers did when I was learning English as a schoolboy in Russia. English is not my native language, and I still remember how my teachers from overseas would draw pictures or act out words. Those moments were so memorable that I still remember the exact vocabulary they were teaching us. So if you do the same with your students in China, it actually works better. They remember your creativity, your humor, even your ridiculous moments, and those become strong learning memories, just like they were for me when I was 13. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you again on my channel. Feel free to check out my other videos about teaching in China and life in China. Peace.